This story is submitted to Cheating Stories subreddit, posted by user Low Battery Lifestyle. My wife of 28 years had an affair with our therapist. My wife, F48, and I, M51, have been married for 28 years. Our marriage had been relatively good for most of the time. At least I thought so. We have 5 kids, current ages 26 to 15. She was a stay-at-home mom for about 23 years, but the last 5 years she has gone back to work. About 8 years ago, my wife left our religion. I tried to support her the best I could while staying faithful myself, but she began to resent that I did not leave with her. She claimed I wouldn't listen to her arguments because she was a woman. That wasn't true, but I did, and do, feel strongly about staying in the faith. She also had complaints about me not helping enough with kids and chores, etc., which sadly I must agree with. I definitely could have done better there. I have depression and have been on medication for the past 15 years. Still, I had a lot low energy according to my wife, and she would complain it was bringing her down. Beyond those complaints, I felt we were much like a lot of other couples with some minor problems, but still in a loving relationship. Apparently, the minor problems were more of an issue for her. She began going to a therapist, M50, about 6 years ago, and a little later, I began seeing him too, individually. Several of our kids also saw him, and he was really good for them. I didn't go to see him very regularly, but I thought he was a nice guy, and he and a psychiatrist on staff would adjust my medications, and I felt I was doing better. Recently, my wife began acting oddly. It started with some late-night phone calls that she would take in her home office. I assumed she was talking with her sister or mother, as she often would, just not that late at night normally. One day, she sat me down and told me that she thought our marriage was in trouble, but didn't want to divorce. This shocked me, but I assured her I wanted her to be happy, and that we could work on things and start some couples counseling. I thought I had some time to improve my own behavior and start the counseling. Then, she started staying out late at night, telling me she was visiting a friend who was having problems. I wasn't worried about this at first, but it happened several nights in a row, and she wouldn't come home until midnight or later. This raised some flags because she worked early in the morning and she strongly guarded her sleep time, but she assured me she was just visiting her friend. We had a family tracking app on our phones that we mainly used to check on our children, but we could track each other too. One night when she still wasn't home, I decided to see where she was. I didn't know where her friend lived, and the location that showed up was a residential area, so I assumed it was her friend's house, and my wife came home shortly after that. She pretended she had been at her friend's. She didn't go out for a few nights, but then did again, and was still out around 2 a.m. I woke up and found she wasn't home, so curiously I checked the app and she was at the same location. Starting to have suspicions, I decided to Google the address. The first Google result was the professional website of therapist. He had a home office. I didn't want to believe it, and wanted to find benign reasons she would be seeing therapists so late. But not being able to think of any, I saw that his phone number was listed on his website. I logged into our phone carrier's site and started looking at my wife's call and text logs. That same number was coming up hundreds of times. In fact, it was over 1,300 times in the past 6 weeks. I noted that the times of most of the calls and texts were late at night, but many were also during the day. I went back to bed and pretended I was asleep when she finally came home, just long enough to change into her work clothes and then leave for work. The next morning, I woke up hoping that I had dreamt the investigating I did, but some Googling later confirmed what I had found. I started documenting everything. By this time, I hadn't seen therapist in over a year. A few days later, I asked her if she had seen therapist lately. She replied no, not in a couple months. I then asked if she was sure she hadn't seen him, and she huffily replied, no. But I then told her I knew she was lying. I told her I had tracked her at his house. She tried to deny it still and said that therapist had moved and that wasn't his house anymore. This was partially true. He was in the process of moving out of state. I said that it was too much of a coincidence that she was visiting an address that just happened to be therapist's former house. I then presented all the evidence I had collected. She broke down and admitted to it. Her next reaction was to ask me not to get therapist in trouble. I replied I didn't want to get anyone in trouble, but I had to think about the situation, since what therapist had done was wrong on so many levels. She also maintained that she didn't want to legally divorce because she didn't want to have to move, and our daughter was still in high school, etc. She did, however, say that she felt like our relationship was over and wanted to have an open marriage. I told her I needed time to think about things. She said her relationship with therapist was ending anyway since he was moving. She did, however, continue to go see therapist and help him finish packing up. After he moved, they continued to phone and text all the time. I was still in shock and decided to go see another counselor at the same provider. Long story short, I ended up informing them about the affair. Therapist had still been working for the same employer after he moved, just doing counseling sessions remotely, but he was now fired. From what I have learned, he thought he wouldn't be able to work as a therapist anymore, but apparently after 6 months, he has found employment again with a counseling outfit in his new state. My wife and I decided to legally divorce. We are still sharing a house together until our youngest graduates high school in a couple years. We are friendly with each other. Now, I gotta say, my first reaction is a mix of shock and sympathy for the guy sharing this. I mean, discovering your wife of almost 3 decades is having an affair with your therapist? That's a whole new level of betrayal. It's clear this guy went through a roller coaster of emotions, from his wife dropping the bomb about their troubled marriage to late-night escapades, tracking apps, and the jaw-dropping realization that the therapist was the other man. Can you imagine the heartbreak? But here's what struck me: the husband's calmness in dealing with it. Sure, he snooped around a bit, tracked his wife's movements, but he confronted her with undeniable evidence and didn't let her deflect the blame. And props to him for standing up against the therapist, getting him fired and not letting this affair slide. The whole open marriage proposition and the wife's admission that their relationship was over, it's like a punch in the gut. But hey, they've decided to legally divorce, remain friendly for the sake of the kids, and cohabitate until the youngest graduates high school. Now, it's wild to think that the therapist, despite getting fired, managed to find employment again in the same field. I can't help but wonder about the ethical standards in the counseling profession. It's a crazy story, but it's got me thinking about trust, boundaries, and the resilience some people have when facing life's curveballs. What about you guys? What's your opinion on the story? Drop it down below. 85.3% of our viewers haven't subscribed yet, so if you enjoy our stories, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Now, let's move on to comments. User ChiliMo7 said, "Honestly, it also seems unethical to have been a therapist for you both. Can't imagine he didn't use things he learned about you as part of how he built a relationship with your ex-wife. You are a kind and generous person to remain friendly with your soon-to-be ex. She was really cruel to you. Even the suggestion of having an open marriage as a way to live together going forward. As though it wasn't enough that she's thrown away the marriage and ridiculed you by cheating on you, now she wants you to continue living with her and watch her be in other relationships. Doesn't seem like she's cared about your feelings much for a while. For whatever my opinion matters, it feels like divorce is indeed the right next step. And in the long run, since you have kids, I guess staying on civil terms will serve you well. Hope you are able to take care of yourself through all of this." User IlyasU077 said, "Stop being too passive. You should have divorced her and aired everything to all families and friends. You still can do it. I would have divorced her since she left your religion and started insulting it. Your ex is a bad person that deserves the worst. After spending your blood and sweat on her, she cheats on you without any remorse. As for that terrible therapist, you need to file a complaint against him to jure him fired wherever he is because he's taking advantages of his clients. You should kick your ex and shun her away. Get yourself a new girl and don't waste years of your life because of your kid. She's old enough. Good luck, man." User HP02121, "I am not going to get into what is happening between you and your wife. It's too complex. However, I am going to suggest that you report the therapist. He is a danger. He is working with people who are in an emotional crisis. And because he is an authority figure, it is easier for him to get involved with women, and probably breaking up relationships in the process." Our commenters have been kind to our OP. Now let's have our next story. Now our next story is posted in Cheating Stories subreddit as well, posted by user Gentlemanly Advice. "My 55M childhood first love, 55F, cheated on me and now is contacting me over 30 years later. And I'm surprised at how I feel. I met Julie when we were both 8 years old. We initially went on a lot of play dates and to each other's birthday parties because our moms, and subsequently our dads, got along really well. Her dad was rich, a president of a technology company. My dad was upper middle class and not hurting for money himself. At this point, Julie had long brown hair. She had these big pale blue eyes that would blast me in my stomach every time our eyes met. My little self had no idea what was going on. In middle school, we were both goth emo kids and outcasts, RIP Ian Curtis. She had short black hair and was kind of pudgy. I was 6 feet tall, skinny guy. I mowed lawns all summer and saved up some money. I bought her a ceramic unicorn when I asked her to go steady with me. I was sure she'd say yes, and she did. Around the end of 7th grade, she decided she wanted to change her style and told me that she was going to change her social circle. She made it clear that I would need to evolve with her or be left behind, so I changed too. By the end of our sophomore year in high school, she had a major glow up. She was physically very fit from swimming. She had grown her hair long and dyed it blonde. I had a glow up myself from orthodontics, lifting weights with the football team and running track and field. I think I could have played football, but Julie thought that only idiots played football, and I didn't feel strongly about it either way. Julie had guys after her, but she was loyal, or so I thought. She was publicly loyal, at least. I later learned that she was going to second base with guys from other schools at house parties, but this was in the future and I was oblivious at the time. I had girls after me too, but Julie would run them off. She'd give them a subtle warning to begin with, and then she'd pretty much eviscerate them socially if they didn't back off. One girl got messed with so bad that she didn't come back to school. I still don't know the details of that. I didn't really want any of them because, quite frankly, Julie was way, way better looking, and she knew it. The first major trouble I had with her was at senior prom. I was coming out of the restroom and some girls came up to me saying, "I'm so sorry, and what are you gonna do?" I asked them what they meant and they told me Julie had slow danced with another guy and kissed him on the dance floor. I confronted her about it and she convinced me it was non-consensual. I started to go look for the guy to beat the piss out of him, but she pulled me back and told me that we were going to leave to go to a hotel. She had arranged a fancy hotel reservation and she told me we were going to go all the way that night. We did. I can verify that she was a virgin when we did it, and so was I. We graduated and went to the same college. I majored in computer science and she majored in art history. I would make fun of her for it. I won a lottery to get a sought-after dorm room. It was a little bigger than a normal dorm room, but what made it so sought after was that it had its own small private bathroom. Julie, of course, lived in a fancy condo very near campus. She insisted on buying brand new hardwood furniture for my room. She got me a fancy desk chair that was surplus from her dad's office. Herman Miller. Damn, I miss that chair. She had always bought clothes for me even though I told her not to. I bought her little gifts too. Third year in college, I was studying in the library. I got a call from a friend telling me that he was sorry that Julie and I had broken up and asked me if I wanted to come to a party and that there'd be girls there. I was like, whoa, what the F are you talking about? He told me he saw Julie with some guy at a party making out heavily, second base, remember, and that she pulled him out of the party to her car. My friend asked Julie, what about OP, and she told him we were broken up. We hung up and I took a chance and went to Julie's condo to get to the bottom of it all. I had a key. I went in and loud music was playing. I went back to the bedroom and there they were. The thing that still sticks with me this day was the fact that she had his shirt over his head and her lipstick was smeared on his chest. I yelled WTF, and she stared up at me with a goofy look on her dumb, drunken face. I grabbed the nearest breakable thing, which turned out to be the ceramic unicorn I got her, and I whipped it at her makeup table, smashing it. I yelled, "F you, Julie, we are done," and stormed out of there with her calling after me. The next day she called and was apologetic, but explained that she wanted to tell me that we were on a break, and it's okay. I didn't know what on a break meant, and I thought it meant the same thing as broken up, so I was like, no, shut, we're on a break, and hung up on her. She started dating this guy who had a reputation as a F-boy. They were apparently in an open relationship, and she bought clothes and stuff for him like she did me, and she was seen with other guys, but again with him. I was basically eating my heart out and trying to get the best grades possible. I went out, but I didn't have any girlfriends. I just partied occasionally. To cope, I got rid of everything that reminded me of her. I donated all of the furniture and replaced it with thrift store particle board crap. I had to start dressing in thrift store clothes too, because I got rid of all the clothes she bought me. It was about half of my wardrobe. I deleted all our photos and threw them away. I told my parents what had happened, and they and Julie's parents wisely stayed out of it. I told my parents and friends not to talk about her with me. She was a figment of my imagination. This was when someone told me about her going to second base with guys at parties during high school. Approximately 9 months later, she broke up with F-boy. The rumor was that he effed a girl in front of a bunch of people in public at a party. She was embarrassed and dumped him. She came to me not long after. It was unexpected to me. When I opened the door, there she was, looking very beautiful with a bright smile on her face and the glued-together unicorn in her hands. I was stunned as she walked in. I totally did not expect her. She asked if I had gotten robbed. All of the stuff she bought me was gone. I told her that if she wanted the furniture, she better go to Goodwill and get it quick. She looked hurt. She showed me the unicorn like it was a metaphor for a repaired relationship. I told her it looked like shoot and we were broken up. She explained what on a break meant. I told her idgef we're broken up. She started crying, but I told her to leave. She would then show up at my classes and try to convince me that we were soulmates who were destined to be together. I told her that soulmates don't F other dudes. She told our mutual friends and they started pressuring me to get back with her because she's inconsolable. She sent me notes and letters. Trash. She sent me flowers and candy like I was some insulted 1950s housewife. Trash. Just being around her hurt me physically, so I transferred out at the end of the semester, ghosting her. I probably should have made other arrangements because I had to go to school 2 more years because a bunch of credits didn't transfer. At the new school, I was signed up for a bunch of classes I already took and ended up barely passing them because I was in my bed all the time. My roommate, not a friend at the time, just assigned to the same dorm room, got annoyed that I was always there and a little worried at my attitude, so he called the campus police on me. I didn't get in trouble, but I did have to go see a counselor who told me I was having a major depressive episode and PTSD and that Julie had some kind of personality disorder or was a sociopath who had groomed me and manipulated me into dependence on her. I don't know if that's all true, but the Zoloft sure helped. I heard that Julie came looking for me at my parents' home. She kept asking them where I was and if she could contact me. They kept telling her no, but she got more and more belligerent and hysterical with them until Julie's parents told her to stop or they would institutionalize her. I graduated, got a job, got transferred to Singapore where I met my now wife. That's a whole other story. I was a passport bro before there were passport bros apparently. I was 35 when we got married and she was 26. We moved back to the USA and had 3 kids. We're doing great. Fast forward to yesterday, I only use Facebook to occasionally upload family pictures, but mostly post amusing stuff that comes out of my head. For example, I found an entire bowl of cereal in the sink today, so I guess we're Bezos rich now. I got a Facebook message from Julie. It had a photo of the unicorn, and in it she apologized for what she did and for hurting me, and that she will never get over me. I didn't write back. I would never insult my wife like that. I blocked Julie, but what surprised me was my reaction to it. Blinding, effing, rage. I effing punched the wall, denting the sheetrock, and I was so mad that tears came down my face, gritting my teeth. Major headache. I swear if Julie were there in front of me, I would have curb stomped her into the death penalty. I'm not a violent guy. I really am not. I laid to my wife and told her I had to work late, and I went on a long, vigorous walk downtown to get my mind off of it. I couldn't go home like this. Later, I am calm and feel nothing but my reaction puzzles me. Isn't the opposite of love indifference? I just don't understand how that happened. I guess the solution is more therapy and Zoloft. Let's dive into my take on it. When Julie resurfaced with that unicorn photo and an apology, my initial reaction was, whoa, talk about a blast from the past. But here's the twist. Instead of feeling nostalgic or indifferent, our OP here was hit with a tsunami of rage. I mean, punching walls and contemplating curb stomping? That's some serious anger. Now I get it. Love is a complicated beast, and so are the scars it leaves behind. But the intensity of that reaction surprised even me. I mean, isn't the opposite of love supposed to be indifference? Our guy is happily married with 3 kids, living his best life. And yet, Julie's reappearance triggered a volcanic eruption of emotions. Therapy and Zoloft? Well, maybe. But hey, who am I to judge? We all have our own ways of dealing with the ghosts of relationships past. Well, stay tuned, guys, as we're moving into comments. User, always red hair, said, "What your ex did to you back then was absolutely terrible. Maybe you have not yet processed this pain in your subconscious and are therefore coming back now. Your negative feelings towards her are absolutely valid. Does your wife know these details that you have described to us here? Maybe it's good for you to meet with therapists and try to let go of all this. Maybe it will also help you to write down all these feelings and burn this note. Your reaction to block them is absolutely right. Sit down with your wife and tell her that your ex contacted you. Be absolutely transparent towards your wife so she can help and support you. Your wife is then prepared should your ex really ring your doorbell. Do not carry this burden alone. Include your wife as a trusted person. Be honest and open." User Wellman81 said, "Sounds like Julie's life probably turned out to be shit and she is trying to bring back the old days when she was an item. Julie made her choices and now she can live with them. I'm sure she reasons with herself on a daily basis that she was young, confused, trying to find herself, blah blah blah. But here's the thing. Just because you're young doesn't mean you don't have a brain and can't make rational decisions. She made the choice to whore herself out and you made the right choice to get rid of her. You handled the situation back then like a boss. Don't let her win by allowing the ghosts from the past get the best of you. It isn't fair to you, and it certainly isn't fair to your wife and children. You won, Julie lost. Leave it at that and brush it off," User Kingsim said. "Maybe she sent you a message because she has a terminal illness and wants to wash away her sins with people that she hurt. It's a bit odd that she kept that unicorn after all this while. You need to get closure on this. Go see her or talk over Facebook with your wife's permission. You need to let this shit go and forgive her so you can move on. All this anger boiling is not healthy for you. Just because you forgive does not mean you forget, but at least the anger and hate will go away. You need to find your inner peace so she's just another person in the street. If she wants to be friends, then you can introduce her to your wife to make it clear. You are not leaving your wife for any woman. She will see that your wife makes you happy, and it will give her closure as well. Heck, it might hurt even jealous knowing that could have been her. And you will have the upper hand. It's been 30 years. You were likely the one that got away, and she probably still knows it and won't let go." As we finish this Reddit story, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing for more interesting Reddit tales. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I look forward to having you in the next video.